So yesterday we began learning about the commandment of the Torah, promise of the Torah, "Le'si meshkela kar batzacha," you shall not have a barren woman, a miscarriage in your land. And we learned yesterday that in addition to the Torah telling us not to be barren, which means not to be someone who cannot be impressed, who cannot hear what Hashem has to tell them, not to be excited about anything Hashem has to say, but further, the Torah says, in your land. What's the meaning of not being, what's the meaning of the word land? The word land is associated with satisfaction, meaning feeling you are satisfied where you are in your service of Hashem, and you don't need to go further. Although this mimer we're learning isn't edited by the Rebbe, as I mentioned when we started learning the mimer, there is a section of the mimer which is edited, which was included in the sikha actually of the parsha that we just read. So I just want to share with you a connection to this, which is connected to this point. It goes like this. The halacha is that if Reuven owes Shimon, according to Reuven, he owes Shimon $500. And Shimon demands from Reuven $1,000. And Reuven says, I only owe you $500. So halacha is, if Shimon goes over to Reuven and says, pay me the $1,000 that I owe you, and Reuven says, I only owe you $500, so halacha is that Reuven has to swear that he only owes him $500. In other words, we suspect Reuven of lying, and in order to solidify his claim, you must make an oath to prove that he is indeed saying the truth. That's what the Torah says. And the Gemara explains why we don't trust Reuven so much. The Gemara says that what Reuven is saying seems to be a little bit, what's the word in English? Quisqua. It seems a little bit, doesn't seem so truthful, because
Suspect. Suspect.
Suspect. Thank you. Because, and the Gemara explains why. The Gemara says that human nature a person doesn't like to be chutzpahdik to someone who he should have gratitude for. Ein adam meis panam b'fei bal cheved. A person does not have arrogance in front of someone who he owes to say, I don't know you. And therefore, the fact that he says, if someone says actually in court, says, I don't owe you anything, so the court believes it. You say you don't owe anything, the court trusts the person who says that. Because if he was dishonest, how would he have the arrogance to say this to the person he owes the money to? On the other hand, this guy doesn't show that he has that kind of arrogance, which means that he feels some gratitude to this person. Okay, so what he says, well, I only owe part of the money. Well, what's going on? So the court suspects him like this. Court says, probably the guy wants to deny the whole thing. He can't deny the whole thing because he doesn't have the chutzpah to deny the whole thing. And therefore, he would rather admit he owes all the money, but he doesn't have all the money now. So what does he do? He tries to squiggle out of this and say, I only owe you part of the money. And so since the guy is exhibiting this suspect claim, therefore the court administers an oath to him. By the way, I think I shared this with you, that this sentence of the Gemara is one of the longest sentences in the Gemara about a person's claim. The Gemara is very, very economic with words. And the Gemara describes this person's whole claim in several sentences. He wants to admit the whole thing, but he can't admit the whole thing because he doesn't have the money. But he wants to deny the whole thing, and can't deny it. There was a Hasidic Rav came to the town, and he had this exact claim of Moed b'miktzah, so the guy admitted partial responsibility, and he went over to the plaintiff. He went to the defendant, and he said to him, "Let me ask you a question. Why does the Gemara say these two opposite things? He wants to admit the whole thing. The Gemara says first, and the Gemara says he wants to deny the whole thing. Which one is it?" So the Chassid explained, the godly soul wants to admit the whole thing. The animal soul wants to deny the whole thing. And went over and explained this again and again until the guy says, okay, you got me. And he paid what he owed. So this is the halacha. This halacha has an exception. What's the exception? Let's say Reuven doesn't come to court after Shimon says to him, you owe me $1,000. Reuven comes before, and Reuven gives the $500 to Shimon before he's asked. So halacha is, if he gives him the money in advance, so then he is not considered a Meideh Miktzas. Meideh Miktzas means when Shimon demands the money, and Reuven admits partial responsibility, and then if he admits partial responsibility to the money, so then he is suspect. However, if he runs over and he pays $500 first, so then he is no longer considered a Meideh Miktzas and he is exempt from this oath. What happens if they come to court together? Does the court ask their claim first? So the Sifsei Kohen says that we always ask the plaintiff first. Why? Because we want to incriminate, we want to make this guy responsible for his suspect claim. And therefore we ask the plaintiff first, what are you asking for? That's the rule in general. But there is an exception. What's the exception? What would happen if Reuven, in order to pay the money, would have to go sell his house? And he has to sell his house immediately to pay the money. What would happen would be, people would know that this guy needs the money right away, and they would give him a very they would shortball him on the other offers for the house, knowing the guy needs this money right away. Or if the time in the market right now is that the guy's house would be worth less. So if the property is worth less right now, or if the property would lose its value by him going around and saying, I need to sell this right now. So in that situation, the court says, okay, in that situation, we're going to allow Reuven to make the claim first, and allow him to present his $500 or present his claim that he only owes $500 before asking Shimon what he says. So in general, we ask the plaintiff first, and we try to bring the guy to be in a state where he has to make the oath. But in a situation where the property will lose value or it has lost value, in that situation, we allow the defendant to make his claim first, and thereby to avert the responsibility of making the oath. Everyone follow so far? Speak now, because in order to understand the spiritual side of it, we gotta understand the nigla part of it. Okay, so in a similar way, the neshama is sent by Hashem to this world to do a mission, and this mission is very precise. There's not an extra second in the mission. There's not a second too little. There's not a second more. The Eibusha gives us an exact mission, and every moment of the mission is precious, and something has to be done every moment of the mission. And before we go on this mission, so the Eibusha makes us swear we're going to be a tzaddik, which means spiritually, he fills us with divine energy to empower us to get the mission done. The Eibusha soups us up before coming to the world with incredible strength to contend with the various challenges we have to go through. Sometimes you scratching your head, like thinking, what was Hashem thinking before he sent me into this world? You know, what kind of challenges you have. You think sometimes like but what you don't know on the other side of the coin is the malachim looking at this guy going down to the world, like what in the world is going to happen to this guy? How come he's getting souped up with this turbocharged extra spiritual energy? This guy must have something special to accomplish in this world. So that's the part we don't see, but that's the part that's real. And the Eibusha does give us what we need to do the mission. He gives us a special neshama energies to contend with whatever challenges we have, everyone according to what they have to do. The Rebbe actually once said, when someone asked the Rebbe about what he should meditate about before davening, the Rebbe said that the point of meditating before davening is that the thing you're thinking about should inspire you. Should be something you could hear. Like we're learning this Ma'amad, you should be excited about. And the Rebbe said that even in chapter 1 of Tanya, there is something that is juicy. And that is, think about how Hashem gives everyone the exact soul energy they need to do their mission, and everyone is mashbiyim. They say Hashem fills us the keiches we need. Okay, so that's what Hashem does. But then what happens is the Yetzer Hara says, sorry, sir, but I don't see you fulfilling your mission exactly the way it was intended. There are hours and minutes and days where not only you're not doing what you're supposed to do, but you're doing what you're not supposed to do. So what's our response? And the Yetzer Hara says, and therefore, I should take control of you. The Yetzer Hara says this guy should go into my hands because he is not doing his mission. I don't know exactly what that means. His claim he wants us to be in his hands, in his jurisdiction. It does say in the Gemara that the wicked are in the domain of their hearts, and we learn in this Maimer also how it's possible to have tintim amech, tintim alev, where you can't hear what Hashem has to say to you, you can't feel. But whatever it means, it doesn't sound good. So Yetzer Hara says that to the Eibishter, this guy should go into my jurisdiction because he's not doing his mission. Al kol dvar pesha, ash kol aveda. This is what the Torah describes in last week's parsha. The guy is negligent. The guy has the object that he was meant to guard has been lost, which means spiritually he's rebelling against his mission. He's lost some of the godly energies that God has given him. So what's our response to the Yetzer Hara? I look like someone flood the courtroom. They couldn't turn off their screen. What's our response to the Yetzer Hara? What do we say to the Yetzer Hara when he says to us that we have gone against our mission? Thank you. Our response to the Yetzer Hara is we're made of mitzvahs. We say, yes, it's true that we've made mistakes, but that's not who we are. We have a neshama. Not only do we have a neshama, but the Gemara says that even the sinners of Israel are full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate, which doesn't just mean that we have lots of mitzvahs. It says we're full of mitzvahs. That means that's our identity. That's who we are. Our essence is our neshama. Our essence is our mitzvahs. And we're full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. So if we're so full of mitzvahs, so we say to the Yetzer Hara, yeah, we're moide b'miktzahs. We admit partial responsibility. Yes, there are things that we should have done that we didn't do, true, but that's not who we are. That's what we say to the Yetzer Hara. We're moide b'miktzahs. So what does a court do when a person is moide b'miktzahs? Moide b'miktzahs, the halacha is you have to take an oath, which means spiritually, Hashem says to the guy, okay, I get it. You slipped, you fell. So you need to have more keiches. You need to have more energy to do your mission, which is something that you don't want necessarily to do. It's a very serious thing just in the world to take an oath, and so too spiritually, to go to the Eibishter and make another withdrawal because you're going to now be suddenly souped up with certain energy, so you're going to be able to do your mission again, to ask for Hashem to again give you another oath and say, okay, give it to me. I need this. I need to have another power pellet, or in the lashon of Super Mario Brothers, need to have another mushroom to give me super keches. In order to do the mission, I need something more. What that may do is give you the keches to do what you need to do, and you actually, you show up and you're doing great stuff. What might happen though is that the same thing might happen again. And then you're doubly messed up because you've asked for this Hashem to give you more. Hashem gave you more, and you didn't do your mission again. So you don't want to really get into business like that with the Eibishter. You like to not get into the domain of the Yetzer Hara. You don't want to do business with that guy either. But to go and to say to the Eibishter that I need more and I'll do more if you give me more is not something you want to do either. So there is another option. What's the other option? The Gemara says about Rabbi Yechim and Zakkai. Before he passed, I'm going to quote this in this discourse here. Rabbi Yechim and Zakkai, before he passed away, he said, I don't know what direction I'm going to be brought in heaven. I don't know if I'm going to go to heaven or to hell. I don't know where I'm going. The obvious question is, if anybody's going to heaven, it's going to be Rabbi Yechim and Zakkai. This guy is the guy who is Zakkai, who is going to be victorious in judgment because he's only doing mitzvahs and sacrificing for mitzvahs every moment of his life, every fiber of his being. What is his question? I don't know where I'm going. And why does he even care? He obviously doesn't care about this because he's worried about hell. Rabbi Yechim and Zakkai wasn't like us, who were concerned about physical things. He wasn't concerned about punishment either. He was concerned only about the Eibishter. He was a tzaddik. So he wasn't frightened by hell, and he wasn't enamored by heaven. So what was his question? Why was he broken? And he was thinking, I don't know where I'm going to go. And why do you only ask this question at the end of his life? When he realized his moments were of in this world were over, and then he asked this question. If it was an important question to ask, he should have asked this earlier. So Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, what he was concerned with at that time was his spiritual station. He's wondering, am I acting in a way that makes me deserving of going to heaven? Am I know if I'm doing what I want? Am I doing the right thing? Why didn't he ask this question before? He never asked this question before because there's no time to ask that question. There's no time to wonder about what spiritual level you're on because you have a mission to do. So asking the question, what level am I on? Am I reaching the level that deserves Gan Eden or not? Is a question that isn't relevant to your Aveda, to your service of Hashem. There's a more important question is, what is needed from you right now? What does Hashem want you to do right now? So Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, he never asked the question, which way am I going? Am I going to heaven or to hell? Why not? Because he's busy doing his mission. So he never asked that question. And the reason he asked this question at the end of his life, possibly, in the notes of the Sikha, that doesn't say this absolutely, he says that possibly this is similar to King David and Rabbi Nachmani, that in order for the angel of death to be able to take their souls, their Rabbah was always learning Torah, and King David is always learning Torah, and so they weren't just always learning Torah, saying words of Torah, but learning Torah in the way that they warded off the angel of death. This is not something that we could do at home. There are people who learn Torah and they passed away while they're learning Torah, and like Rav Shimon Chayiv and whatever. I don't know what that means, but either way. So what the issue is that they were disturbed and they were from what they were supposed to be doing, and that's how the angel of death was able to take their soul. In a similar way, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, in order to the angel of death to take his soul, he stopped doing his mission for a second and he asked that question: what level am I on? Where am I going? Perhaps. But the point is, he never asked the question before. That's the point that I was making. He never asked that question because he was always busy doing his mission. And since he's always busy doing his mission, there's no time to ask the question, what level am I on spiritually? Why are you asking what level you're on spiritually? Something has to get taken care of. So what happens is that you go to the court and the Yetzer Hara says, this guy deserves to be have some Yetzer Hara demons in his life and get a little in the control of Yetzer Hara because of the mistakes he's made. He deserves to have, similar to it says in Pirkei Avos, one sin should lead to another. He should be challenged more because of where he's gone. What's the response of a Jew like Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai? I have no time for you. I've got no time for you. You think I have time for you? I got a mission to do. So he leaves the court. In other words, similar to the analogy we gave before in Halacha, where the defendant says to the plaintiff, or doesn't have to say it, but the fact is that his property will be worth less if he tries to make a sale of his property now to pay the debt. In that situation, the court goes over to the defendant first and doesn't bring him to a state where he'll become a Meideh B'Miktzas. He won't become someone who admits partial responsibility, because we'll ask him first, how much do you owe? And once he says 500, and the other guy says he owes 1,000, so he's not considered Meideh B'Miktzas anymore. He offered the 500 before the plaintiff made the claim. So transferring this back over here, we have our property. We have the things Hashem gave us. Hashem gave us the moments and days and the energy Hashem gave us. So our response to the Yetzer Hara and and the way we have to operate is Mashakela, which means we have a mission to do. We can't allow our moments and days not to be precious to us. If our property is going to become cheapened, so then Hashem says, in that situation, I'm not going to throw the Yetzer Hara's case out of court. In other words, if we consider the moments Hashem gives us as precious because we don't feel satisfied and complacent, we don't say, okay, I've done enough, but we feel that that we have a need to be, and every moment is precious, and we feel that the Yetzer Hara's claim and bringing us to this whole discussion of what level are you on, and why aren't you where you're supposed to be, and instead we think about how every moment is precious, we have to do something. And we don't want our property to be cheapened. We don't want our minutes and days and Koyach Hashem gives us to be cheapened by having this whole debate with the Yetzer Hara. Then Hashem responds to us and he says, "Es misper yemecha amal." The next line of this Torah portion, I will fill your days. And not only does Hashem throw the Yetzer Hara's claim out of court, but more, as misper yemecha amal, the Eibusher also completes whatever was lacking previously in our service of Hashem. Not only does Hashem throw out the Yetzer Hara's claim, but he fills our days. He fills whatever we have missed in the past. And everyone follow that point? Okay, so that's what I was going to present in the next few lines of this mimer. Let's continue on. You're on the top of page Chaf Aleph. Let's go. So even that was describing how a Jew may be very noble and very holy and very knowledgeable, but he could have another deficiency, which is he feels complacent and he feels that he's satisfied where he is, and that could really derail him. How knowledgeable is he? What kind of level are we talking about? We're talking about someone at a very high level. Number one, he knows when he gets stuck, he knows Amshachi b'kavach chesed. He knows when he gets stuck, he causes God's kindness to flow to the world. He knows what happens when he does gvura, when he conquers his Yetzer Hara and he exhibits strength in the service of Hashem. He knows what kind of benefit the world has through that. And he knows also, and he knows when he studies Torah what kind of effect the world is, how positively the world is affected by study of Torah. And he feels that. He feels he gets stuck in what it does. He feels the tremendous power of what he's doing. And he is really fulfilling what the verse is saying, and you should serve Hashem, your God. What's the meaning of Hashem, your God? Yud Kei Vav Kei is God's name. And it's the name of Hashem which has meaning of past, present, and future all at once. How Hashem is transcendent. Not just how Hashem is above time, but how Hashem is transcendent above all the worlds. And he feels how Hashem's truth is El Nas Elokechem. He feels that Hashem's truth is your God. He feels that the Eibishter is right there with him, and it's very vivid to him, in front as if he sees it with his eyes. How Hashem is his power, Hashem is his life. He knows all this. He serves Hashem, his God, meaning he serves Hashem in a way that he feels the Eibishter is animating him every moment. So it's a really high madrega. However, despite the fact he's on such a high level, he has to be very careful not to have satisfaction full from what he's doing. Because once he is satisfied where he is, he will stay where he is and he won't go further. Stellt sich up on the gates and he'll stop where he is and won't continue. Besides the fact that once you have the sense of complacency, that can cause that your positive feelings of love and reverence for Hashem which already exist, will not stay. You'll lose those feelings. The complacency kills the heart. Even while he has those feelings, if he has a sense of complacency and satisfaction, and he's satisfied where he is, he's going to serve Hashem only in a limited way. How much will he serve Hashem? Enough that will satisfy his conscience. He'll serve Hashem as much as he wants to. And that's the meaning of the Torah saying, you should not have a miscarriage. You should not have a barren woman. In your land, you will not have one. What does this mean? This means specifically in your land. What's the meaning of your land? The word land means desire. That means he should not feel this sense of satisfaction in his service of Hashem. And And certainly you shouldn't be full of what he wants and what this thing I want, this thing I don't want. In other words, if I'm going to be satisfied with where my divine station is, I am going to not only prevent my heart from having positive feelings, but what's going to happen is I'm only going to do what makes me feel good. I'm going to do the things that make me feel good as much as I feel good, and I'll stop when I don't feel good. If I have artzecha, if I am conscious of and think about why I'm doing this because it satisfies me, and I'm thinking, and I am satisfied, and I'm not thinking about how Hashem has a mission for me every second. There's something I need to do. I'm not thinking about that I'm a soldier in Hashem's army and there's a mission to be done. Instead, I'm thinking about I did a lot. Then I'm going to only do as much as I can, as much as I need to get that sense of satisfaction. I'll choose to do those things which satisfy me. That's the problem with the artzecha. So the Torah says you should not have this sense of svias ratzon. Don't have this thing in your land. Land means desire. Don't make your desire satisfied by what you're doing. Because if you do, what's going to happen is that you're going to be picky and choosy of the things of what you like to do, what you don't like to do, and you only go as far as you need to get that sense of satisfaction. And not only will it, and that is referring to someone who has reached this high level of love reverence for Hashem in a real way, but even someone who hasn't reached such a high level, we can all know ourselves that the sense of complacency will really derail us from what needs to get done that day. You know, if you feel I did it, I'm good, I'm okay, so then why go further? I told you the story of the Kotzker Rebbe about the guy who told the Kotzker Rebbe said, "Who is a chassid? Someone who tries a little bit." So the guy says, "Okay, so everyone's a chassid." The Kotzker says, "Then you're not a chassid if you think that, because the moment you say that I've done enough, then you don't need to try anymore." So what the Rebbe is saying here is not only that life is a mountain. If you're not climbing, you're falling. The Rebbe is saying the very fact that you feel satisfied, that itself is something that will knock you off the mountain. Even if it wasn't the mountain, even if life was easy, even if you didn't have to climb, the fact that you're going, that what's in your mind, in your heart, is, did I do enough? Am I doing good? Okay, I did good. If that's what's on your mind, you're not going to get there. You're going to travel thousands of miles. You're never going to get there to where you need to be as a person, where Hashem sent you in the world for. In order to get to where Hashem wants you to be, the Torah says, you got to think about the mission. You got to think about Hashem wants to do. Why he gave you these days? Why he gave you these moments? What are they for? Let's do a few more lines. Next page, page Chav Beis. As Mispri Mechamale, the Torah says, I will fill your days. What the Torah is doing is telling us how not to be satisfied. What will take away the sense of complacency? And how can you accomplish in yourself that you shouldn't feel this complacency by realizing that Hashem has given you a amount of days, that every moment that you're given has something, has a purpose. When a person meditates about the fact that God gave him a certain amount of days, there's not one day extra, there's not one day less. And every day and every hour and every moment, and you have to fulfill your mission of what you're here for. He's so busy with this. He's so focused on this. He has no time to think about what level he's on. Like Rabbi Zakai said, that we quoted before, I don't know where I'm going. Why didn't he know where he was going? He never thought about where he was going before. Because he was so busy doing his mission, he didn't pay attention to what level he was on. He was he had such a yoke upon himself. He was so under pressure and so involved and so submerged into fulfilling his mission every day, every hour, every moment. He doesn't know what level his mind is on. He doesn't know what level his midas are on, his character is on. How much more so does not know what's going on deep within his soul. He has no idea if maybe externally he's doing really good, but internally maybe there's a lot of black inside. There's a lot of negativity inside. He doesn't know what kind of inner demons he has. He doesn't know. Why? Because he's not supposed to know, because he's busy doing his mission. So certainly he didn't have Siyas Ratzon. Certainly wasn't satisfied where he was. He was so engrossed in doing his mission, he didn't think about, am I on this level? Am I on that level? Am I doing good? Am I doing bad? Because the Frierdiker Rebbe said he had some Chassidim when he came to America. It's natural when the Chassidim came to America to look at the skyscrapers. They never saw such big buildings in their life. But the Frierdiker Rebbe spoke about some Chassidim. I think one Chassid said that he walks among the skyscrapers and he thinks about Yichudi Allah. Another Chassid, I think he said he never looked up at the skyscraper. He didn't care about that. So I don't think that we're in the same realm as those guys, right? But I think that what they're saying over here is very pertinent to each of us. That we have to think about what is that Hashem gave us some amount of time to do a mission, and are we doing it? And that's the way to make sure that we don't have this sense of complacency. And any questions or comments? All right. Great day, Reb Aryeh. Great day, Dr. Bressman. Great day, David. Great day, Mordechai. Great day, Rebel. Great day, Zev. Sei gesund.